For me, some of my major breakthroughs have just been having that ability in the moment that I really need it to call upon habits. And then when you're able to call upon those habits in the really tough times, you know, that's where you see people who's like they're just not shaken. You finally got some peace of mind. Now we can't have that. We can't let him keep that peace of mind. You gotta fight for it too. You whip out all the stops, everything you've been learning and practicing. Hey everybody, welcome back to another game of Dome Keeper. Got a quick question for you. Have you ever felt like your external pressures have started to weigh you? How about having a sensation of too many things to take care of all at once? Well, thankfully the depths of this game help you understand how to implement different basics of mindfulness if you're willing to join me in digging deeper in Dome Keeper. One of those things, I just really love this game. First of all, it's probably one of my go-to games. I think in terms of mindfulness, all the basic mechanics of this game really kind of play into it. It's just a fun, peaceful game to play almost. And one of the things I think about is kind of just like a basic meditative state. You know, even just from the get-go, think about how this game is played. Kind of have a nice repetitive task, something simple, doesn't take a lot of brain power. Almost kind of grounding. Even the rhythm itself, finding nice repetitive tap to it. One of the things I really think have helped me on my journey. Sometimes when things are just getting a little tough, a little rough, it is a little helpful to have like a nice, easy, repetitive task. One thing I think about too is like, when was the last time you got into like a flow state? Just that kind of like in the groove kind of motion. Think about the last time you had one of those. Kind of what we're doing. You know, what we're doing in that. Once you figure that piece out, like that can help you out a lot of different ways. And even in combat style too. Pretty simple. Nothing too crazy. You're not having to do like some sort of combos and pop in the little dome. I will say, stuff like this has gone through, helped me gone through frustrating or confusing times. You might say like confusing, like, yeah, because you know when you get that sensation, maybe it's just me, I don't know. Getting that sensation of just having so much going on in life, you're just really not sure what to do next. You just got like things to do, stuff going on. Having something like this can kind of help, you know, ground you. Pun intended, since we're digging in the ground here. Yeah, I mean, such a simple game to have such a helpful process built into it. If any of y'all have ever played Dome Keeper before, I'd highly recommend it. In fact, I think they just came out with a multiplayer. Hopefully I get a chance to test that with either a buddy of mine or my friend or something like that. They started out fire this time. They started out on hard mode or something. But do get some upgrades and a little bit of this action going on. I think they also animated some of this dome a little bit better, and then it just looks a little bit more crisp. Gosh, oh man, yeah, they definitely did something. They definitely upgraded some of the like graphics, I guess you could say. Maybe that's like a hit game. Yeah, I think another piece too in terms of being grounded in the ground. A really helpful exercise that I've seen, and I've done it myself too, is I like to call it like a little body scan. Kind of start with thinking like physically, you know, bringing like physical sensation into your life. So that is one of the easier ways, at least I've noticed, on kind of getting present when I'm kind of getting a little antsy or feeling like there's a little too much going on, like that physical sensation type of thing. So with like a body scan, which sounds kind of funky, essentially is just, you know, sit for a second and just kind of feel yourself from the top going down. Like, how does your hair feel? You can do it right now, even just while listening. And how does your hair feel right now? Moving down from your forehead, nose, all the way down to your chin. And you just keep moving down, hit it through your shoulders, working through that piece. Just go all the way down to the tips of your toes. So from the top to the bottom, just kind of scanning your body on the physical feeling, the physical sensation of it. And we keep on moving down deeper and deeper. Yeah, body scans, pretty helpful. The other piece too, kind of similar to a body scan, is a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 of your senses. You know, just kind of feel your senses. You think about what are like 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. You might not necessarily have the opportunity to go through all 4 of those pieces. And the taste one, I ain't gonna lie, the taste one's kind of hard to do. For that one, I just kind of like think about like what's the taste of my mouth. And I know as I'm saying that, y'all are probably now like manually thinking about the taste of your mouth. So if you need to go and hop up and get like a mint or something if it ain't tasting too good, or if it is, hey, either way it works, whether it's tasting good or tasting not. The whole point is just to have that physical sensation grounding. Even when things get a little dicey, you can still whip that out pretty much anywhere you go. Another thing I think about too, that this game does a pretty good job, is kind of like the explanation, you know, how life adds stressors. I mean, even in just how I'm recording this video right now, kind of give you all some good hints on some things, and all of a sudden I got things up top trying to attack me, kind of like interrupting my flow. And I think that's a really apt way of the representation of like life. You know, life's going to come in and interrupt whatever flow you think you got. And it might not even necessarily be like bad things or adversity. It could just be like, you got a lot of good stuff going on. Maybe you got a new project, maybe you got some new videos coming out. Those little things kind of add up depending on how much of that you got coming in. Another good thing too with this is when you have those moments of feeling like you got a lot going on, start your day with the top 3. So the top 3 is like organize your day by your priorities. And so think about just what are the top 3 things that you need to do today to be successful or to get you closer to your goals. So, for example, you know, if you're creating content, you know, a common one I use like on the weekends is, you know, one could be, hey, record the video or edit the video, write the scripts for the videos, you know, and then clean apartment, whatever it may be. Like, what are the top 3 things that are going to help you feel successful? When you get a habit of planning that the day before, you kind of start building in just very basic daily priorities that build up to something great. And what that helps you do in terms of mindfulness is it keeps all those little distractions away. Because you know, like, oh, I got so much to do. I'm so busy. One, are you busy or busy being productive? And when you define your productivity, you know, it feels way better, and it helps you kind of stay kind of a little bit sane when you have a lot of stuff going on. You say, yeah, I'm busy being productive because I defined what productive meant for me. You know, if you want to dive deeper into priorities, that's actually the topic of my next video. It's going to be on priorities and done through the game of The King is Watching. So I know it's a relatively new game as well. I got a good feeling about that one. If you like that kind of content, if you like this kind of help, if you like kind of figuring out priorities, definitely make sure you subscribe so you know I'm uploading more and more videos. Hopefully add a lot of value to y'all so you can get out there and master today and crush it in whatever endeavor you got going on. Definitely would also love to hear if y'all had anything that y'all wanted to know more about. Maybe you got a certain topic of improvement that you want to work on, or some sort of problem you're just having trouble figuring out a good solution. Maybe I can help, or maybe someone in the comments might be able to help you as well. And the soundtrack of this game too. I want to talk about bringing a little bit of peacefulness and mindfulness to your day. Playing this game, man, that soundtrack. Just letting it play in the background. Good stuff right here. We're making some good progress here. Let's dig a little bit deeper. Go a little bit deeper still. We got ourselves a nice little upgrade. I feel like that also ties in a lot to as you get better and better at practicing mindfulness, because it's definitely a journey. You dig deeper and deeper, you get a breakthrough. You know, you find a little something for you. Something that kind of helps you move on the way you want to move on in life. In fact, as you get better and better and better and deeper, and you get more like resources kind of being like building your habits, building your mindfulness, you can come back and kind of, just like we're upgrading the dome, upgrading your habits and you're upgrading your mindset, and that helps you deal with all the stuff happening out there. Helps you get more effective, helps you get better at fighting through. Speaking of fighting through, let's go ahead and knock out all these little distractions right here. Boom. And just like that, upgrade the tower, upgrade yourself, run through those distractions, adversities, keeping that peace of mind going and flowing for yourself. You see how we're hitting some of these blocks now. They're getting kind of a little bit tough. One thing I've noticed too is on those harder blocks, it requires more of your focus. Like they're like tougher to bust open. When you have that kind of focus, it pulls you away from maybe some of the other things that might be pulling at you. So another thing I've learned is physically writing stuff down is actually one of like the key ways to pull yourself kind of back into the present. I look at, like we talked about, physical sensation aspect of something. When you're in those kind of tough moments, keep a pen and paper on you. Don't just type it on your phone, computer. When you physically write stuff down, your mind now has to work to think about what to write and then physically enact the writing. When you do that, that helps that pulls you into the present. Pulls your focus onto something other than, if you're someone who overthinks or kind of thinks a lot of what ifs, maybe having some runaway emotion or negative downward spiral. When you start writing some of that stuff out, what I've found, at least it helps me in kind of slowing down the brain. So that's why I think about those thick blocks that like have trouble busting open, is it really pulls my attention. It kind of reminded me of that. You notice all those little itty bitty guys. A lot of times too, some of the smallest things create some of the biggest cracks in your life. Sometimes you have some big things kind of pulling at you. Sometimes you got things that kind of sneak up on you, like this guy. You got to really focus and bam, knock him out. But those little tiny guys, the threat of the small insignificant things in your life taking up your headspace that really don't matter. It's a big deal. It kind of comes back to the prioritization of things. Not letting the threat of the urgent keep you from what's important. Alright, looks like we've dug pretty deep here. Deeper and deeper. Getting back to, writing stuff out. Really like emotional journaling is something that took me a long time to build into a solid habit. And I found that having that emotional journaling really helps with not only just identifying maybe an emotion that you're feeling, but when you're starting to get kind of like really into your feelings, journaling it is like this right here. Taking that time to pair something, identify what the emotion is, what the triggers, and what the context is. I mean, that's been like one of my biggest breakthroughs in terms of just that like emotional management when things are just feeling a little too hectic. When you got a lot of that stuff going on, just taking the time to journal, like what's the feeling? What's the single noun for the feeling? Angry, tired, excited, elated. Or use them Scrabble 10-point words if you have to. We'll keep it nice and simple. Identify the one-word trigger or the one-word emotion. And once you find that out, then write down what's the trigger and what brought you to feel that way. Like what was kind of thing that happened immediately prior to that happening. Then you dig deep. Then you dig real deep on that context to try to identify. You dig deep in that trigger to identify the context. Kind of give you a little bit of the answer there. Once you identify the context, then you can actually do something with the emotion. You can fully process the emotion instead of just kind of letting it hang out. Because if you let the emotions hang out without processing them, what tends to happen is it builds up. Every day you're feeling angry about the same thing. You don't do anything to actually process why you're being led to feel angry. Well, then every day it just keeps happening. It gets worse. And then all of a sudden it just kind of feels like always living in your head. And if something's always living in your head, taking up headspace, and there goes your peace of mind. Take a listen real quick. What do you notice? Silence. That's right. Silence is also probably one of the biggest things I've been working on myself recently, is actually just being able to enjoy sitting in silence. For me, I just tend to like a lot of input. A little bit of the he likes to have a lot of stuff going on in my head. But, talked about, not necessarily mentally sustainable. Always have stuff going on. That's how you get that cluttered mind, start losing that peace of mind. What I've noticed recently is how often am I actually taking time for silence? Not even meditation, but just like nothing going on. Maybe just walking in nature, or maybe just sitting on my couch, but in silence, no input, no visual input, no auditory input, just silence. And when I started doing that, all the input I've been getting in throughout the day, I actually process. Like we talked about processing emotions, that can happen. Processing all the input from the day, learning new things, like actually bringing it into your brain. You'll find that if you just take a couple of minutes, even just a 30-second silence break, clarity that comes with that is crazy. As you get better and better at it, you enjoy the habit more, start getting more clarity alongside of it. So all kind of comes down to having that habit of being in silence. And then as you build that up, you can also start building up any habit of meditation for whatever that looks like for you, whether it's part of your faith or it's not a part of your faith. Having that meditation is great. I think one of the bases of meditation has been just letting the thoughts kind of come to you, not judging the thoughts, or just straight up letting them kind of flow, not thinking too much on a thought. Just let it flow. Let it flow by. The other piece of meditation too that's helpful is affirmations or mantras, saying that. So having the silence, having the affirmations, having the mantra. You know, if you are of a specific faith, whatever holy scripture you may, having something like that to ground you to the meditation, all that tied together, the silence and the meditation, really does a lot for helping you get some of your peace of mind back and some mindfulness. And, you know, as I've talked about a couple other times, is a lot of this too has to do with, you know, habits. If you're not building any habits around it, then you're not going to be able to like feel that ability to call on it when you need it on those dire times. So then you start looking at mindfulness as like this afterthought kind of piece rather than something that you can do in the moment. You can be flexible with it. You can pull it out when you need it most. Dang, I feel like I should have ran into the relic by now. It's really hiding from me. Elusive. After you start getting those habits in place and you've dug really deep, then you find maybe that one super major breakthrough that you've been waiting for. That's that relic right there. You just got a couple last steps to hit. For me, some of my major breakthroughs have just been having that ability in the moment that I really need it to call upon habits. And then when you're able to call upon those habits in the really tough times, you know, that's where you see people who's like they're just not shaken. They've gotten that thing right there, got their major breakthrough. And you can do that too. Keep building up the habits and you pull up right there that thing, that breakthrough you wanted most for right now, for this one moment. And just like that peace of mind gets in you. Then you're ready to take on all of this. You got all these things. It's almost like the world's like, hey, you finally got some peace of mind. Now we can't have that. We can't let him keep that peace of mind. You gotta fight for it too. You whip out all the stops, everything you've been learning and practicing. All the resources, the mental resources you've been saving up has been for this moment. Major project deadline. You say, you know what? I got it. That one breakthrough I had right there, that breakthrough is what saved me at the end. Look at the dome. The dome was super cracked. At the very end, all of that work for mindfulness, which is ironic, but the built-in habits, applying consistently what you need to apply, helped you out at the very end. All the habits tied it together, and then you got your mindfulness. You know, and then you kind of looking around, like look so deep. You got ups and downs and lefts and rights, learned new things, tried out new stuff, and you finally got to your breakthrough. And you know what's crazy? Look how much more is left. And just like with everything else, when it comes to like habits, just like everything else when it comes to habits, there's always more. You say, hey, I just did small, a little bit difficult. Let's hit the next wave. Let's learn a new thing. Let's get to a new breakthrough. And then you'll realize the waves of life never stop. So don't stop digging deeper in your mindfulness journey. Take it to the next level. If you like what you saw here, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. And just like that question from the top, you know, when you're in those moments, what was the last time you had a flow state? And what were you doing? What helped you get there? I'd love to see that in the comments. I'd love to see what y'all would have for that. You know, who knows? Maybe you might help someone else on their mindfulness journey. So with that, be impactful, be loving, be kind, and be mindful. See y'all next time.